Good evening. This is the Lincoln City Planning Commission Tuesday, February 4th meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. James, could we have a roll call?
Lenny Nelson,
Here.
Patty Crowan,
Here.
Miles Schlesinger,
Here.
Josh Brainerd,
Here.
Marcy Baker, Kim Blackerby.
Here.
Okay. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm having an allergy attack, so if I'm up here snortling, please just ignore it. Anne-Marie, do we have any agenda changes or revisions?
We don't.
Okay. We have the minutes from January 21st. I'm going to assume that all of my commissioners have reviewed those. So do I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
I suggested some changes, so
Okay. Did you give those to James already?
And those changes were made. So the copy that you have to sign, there were 2 spelling errors,
Okay.
basically.
Excellent. Thanks, Kim. All right. All right. So I heard a motion from Lenny. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right. So with the minor grammatical changes, those are fine. Excuse me. We have a final order tonight, final order 2020-01 for a conditional use permit 2019-05 for Devil's Lake RV. And I know you sent that over. It wasn't in the packet. And in looking at the conditions, it looks like a couple of conditions that we approved at the last meeting aren't included.
Okay.
So one of them was marking and avoidance of the wetlands on site to keep equipment out of the wetlands and also any debris from going into the wetlands. And the other one was to maintain the vegetation as a screen where fencing is prohibited due to it crossing the wetland boundary. So if those 2 conditions can be added, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Right? Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Miles. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. Okay, it is now 6:04, and the public hearing for file APP 2020-01 is now open. This public hearing concerns an appeal of a land use decision approving an amendment from an accessory to an unlimited VRD for the property addressed at 1184 Northeast Lake Drive. The property owners are Macario and Rachel Ekliva? Sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly. The appeal is brought by Jerry Lawson in an individual capacity and also on behalf of Octavian and Lindley Tomos, Jerry and Marilyn Newton, Marianne Hattelid, and Robert Pipeless. And again, I apologize if I mangled your names. The commission must take a few moments to cover some preliminary matters and required statements. Does any member of the commission wish to declare an ex parte contact? Hi, Marcy. Conflict of interest or bias in this matter? Okay. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the qualifications of a commissioner to participate in this matter? Yes, sir. Okay. You want to come forward and make your comment in a microphone so we get it on the record, please? Good evening.
My name is Jerry Newton. I live at 1145 Northeast Lake Drive. Lived there for 5 years.
Okay. This is, I'm not taking the public comment right now. This is just if you don't think anybody up here is going to be fair and unbiased, you need to identify that person.
I have no reason to believe that
Oh.
they would not be.
Okay, go back to your seat.
Okay.
As you were.
Okay. The following statements are required to be made at the commencement of the hearing pursuant to the city code and ORS 197.7635. Staff will now read a list of the applicable substantive criteria for this decision. Anne Marie, please.
Substantive criteria are Lincoln City Municipal Code, Section 17.80.050, vacation rental dwelling use criteria, and Lincoln City Municipal Code, Chapter 17.76.040, appeals.
Thank you. So all testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward the applicable substantive criteria previously listed, or such other criteria in the plan or land use regulations which the person believes applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes your appeal to LUBA, the Land Use Board of Appeals, on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the decision makers to respond to the issue precludes any action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the end of this hearing, any person who participated may request a continuance to provide additional testimony, argument, or evidence, or request that the record be left open to submit additional written testimony, argument, or evidence. Before the staff presents the report, I would like to summarize the public hearing procedures which have been adopted by the Planning Commission and City Council. A summary of the public hearing procedures is on the table by the entrance to the chambers. Generally, the order of proceedings will be as followed. These preliminary matters and required statements, then we'll have a staff report, questions of the staff from the commissioners, the applicant's presentation, and then we'll hear from those in favor of the application, those that are neutral to the application, and those who are opposed. Then any testimony from public agencies, the rebuttal by the applicant, and then any requests of continuance or to leave the record open, then close of the hearing, close of the record, requests to submit written argument, deliberations, and decisions. The city has established some time limits. The applicant will have 15 minutes and may reserve up to 5 minutes of that time for rebuttal. After the applicant testifies, any person may speak for up to 3 minutes. If the Planning Commission has questions for you, that time won't be counted against your 3 minutes. If you wish to speak, please print your name and your mailing address clearly on the sign-up sheet on the table at the entrance. Please speak directly into the microphone when you come forward and begin by stating your name only. If you also have any written testimony to submit into the record, please provide a copy of that to James. Okay. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Anne Marie Skinner with the Planning and Community Development Department. This is case file APP 2020-01. As has been stated, the appellants are Jerry Lawson, Octavian and Lindley Thomas, Robert Pipels, Jerry and Marilyn Newton, Marianne Hatlid, and the property owner of the subject site, Macario and Rachel Aclevia. The site is addressed as 1184 Northeast Lake Drive, is on the south side of Northeast Lake Drive, approximately 37 feet west of Northeast Regatta Park Road. The site is in the single-family residential zone, R15. The R15 zone has a cap just for your information, has a cap on the number of unlimited accessory dwelling units. And that is key to this application. The subject property.
Anne Marie, you said accessory dwelling units. You meant vacation rentals, right?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Accessory dwelling units are on my mind. The application for a vacation rental dwelling use as an accessory use was received by the Planning and Community Development Department on July 22nd, 2019. And at that time that the application was received, the R15 zone was at its cap for unlimited vacation rental dwellings. At that same time, the property owners requested to be placed on the list, the waiting list, for unlimited use in the R15 zone. On August 15th, 2019,
Was there an established list at that time? Were there
Yes.
others on the list?
yes, there's an ongoing list. On August 15th, 2019, the application was deemed complete. The required notice of application was mailed to all property owners within 250 feet. On August 16th, 2019, no comments were received, and that is for the vacation rental dwelling as an accessory use. On September 6, 2019, staff performed the required site inspection, and on September 20th, 2019, staff mailed notice of the decision approving the residence for use as an accessory vacation rental dwelling. That notice was mailed to all the property owners within 250 feet, and the 20-day appeal period for that decision ended on October 10th, 2019. No appeals were received. Subsequent to that, and prior to the property owners obtaining their license for the accessory vacation rental dwelling, the property owners received notification that they were next on the waiting list for an unlimited vacation rental dwelling. So, on November 14th, 2019, the property owners requested an amendment for their land use from an accessory license to an unlimited license. That was received in our department on November 14th. It was dated November 7th, 2019. Because there are no differences or changes in the standards for an accessory versus an unlimited vacation rental dwelling, other than the number of nights allowed for use, staff approved the application for the unlimited VRD. On December 18th, 2019, staff mailed notice of the decision for the unlimited VRD, and the 20-day appeal period for that decision ended on January 7th, 2020. And on January 3rd, so within the appeal period, the Planning and Community Development received a letter from the appellants requesting an appeal of the decision based upon traffic that would be a danger to residents on Northeast Lake Drive, and that off-street parking is not available at this location. The standards for approving a vacation rental dwelling are as follows. One is ownership. The subject property containing the vacation rental dwelling is owned by Macario Eclevia and Rachel Eclevia. The statutory warranty deed is attached showing them as the owner. They do not own any other residentially zoned property in Lincoln City that is authorized for use as a vacation rental dwelling. That standard is met. Accessory or permitted use is the second standard, and that is the number of nights. Accessory use is limited to 30 nights. permitted use is unlimited, and that is based on the zone. And if it's in the residential zone, the R15, then it's based on the cap. And in this, that is the subject of this application. Parking is the third standard. In any residential or commercial zone, one off-street parking space will be provided for each bedroom in the dwelling unit, and no less than 2 spaces will be provided for each dwelling unit. If the proposed VRD use cannot provide the required parking and also meet the other standards of subsection B of this section, including required landscaping, the vacation rental occupancy of the dwelling shall be reduced to conform to the available amount of off-street parking and made a conditions of licensing. Standard is that one off-street parking space must be provided for each bedroom in the dwelling unit, and no less than 2 spaces must be provided. The dwelling unit contains 2 bedrooms as verified by staff's inspection on September 6, 2019. Accordingly, per the standard, 2 off-street parking spaces must be provided. The submitted site plan shows 2 off-street parking spaces. Staff's site inspection confirmed the existence of the 2 required off-street parking spaces. One of the off-street parking spaces is located behind the dwelling. The second off-street parking space is located on the side of the dwelling in a 15-foot by 40-foot parking easement on the adjacent property. A copy of the recorded easement is attached to the staff report. Staff made a subsequent visit to the site, parked in the parking spaces, took pictures of the city car parked in the off-street parking spaces, and those are attached in the packet. The 4th standard is solid waste. The owner must provide securable receptacles of sufficient size and subscribe to a solid waste collection service. The applicants provided proof of garbage service from North Lincoln Sanitary Service in the original application. Staff's inspection confirmed the presence of the required receptacles. There is landscaping of the front yard required. Staff's inspections of the site confirmed the presence of the required landscaping. The 6th standard is signs. That signs in residential zones are limited to 1 sign not exceeding 4 square feet in area. Staff site inspection showed no signs on the site. 7th standard is compliance with the transient room tax, and that is something that the property owner signs up for at the same time that they obtain their license. The 8th standard is the VRD license. Prior to making the VRD available for use, the owner must obtain the VRD license, and that's the next step in the process once this application, or once this hearing is complete. The 9th standard has to do with VRDs that were in existence prior to December 1st, 2016, and that is not applicable. Do you have any questions?
I have one so far. I'm looking at the photos of the parking, and I see the city vehicle parked what looks like at the side of the house, and I don't see a photo of it parked behind it. What I see behind it looks like the trash cans and maybe the recycle bin. Am I looking at the wrong photos?
Those would be the correct photos.
Okay.
Those were the photos I was provided by staff.
So the parking space that are, okay, let me back up. Are both parking places the same size?
No, one is a compact, so it's smaller. The smaller, the site plan shows the compact space behind the house.
So is there anything in the regulations that specify size of parking spaces?
One has to be standard and one has to be compact.
Has
Or,
to be?
No, excuse me. At least one has to be standard.
Okay. And it almost looks like there's room for 2 cars parked tandem on the side of the building. Is that correct?
The
It's
site
hard to
plan,
see, you know,
the site plan does not show that.
Okay.
The site plan shows it as,
Site plan.
Like at page 34, shows the little drive.
Okay, 34. Let me get there.
We have 3 pictures of the side parking. I wonder if
Yeah,
that
it looks like on the site plan, it has a box drawn behind the house that says compact. And then it says on the side, tandem parking 2 cars. And has the full lined out, and then, what do you want to do?
The other space is parallel to the road. There might be some place in there, but one place is right in this area.
So it looks like there's,
Yeah.
there's 2 fulls and 1 compact.
That's what
their
I'm
site plan
seeing
does,
on the
the
site
site
plan.
plan shows 3 parking spaces.
Right.
2 standard and 1 compact.
Well, actually, there's not 17 feet behind a second parking spot, so I don't think that's a legal one. On the driveway, you have to have some clearance.
Yes, the site plan shows that as 32 feet. So to be 2 full, two
but
full
here,
spaces, it would
this
need to
isn't
be
really
40 feet.
parking
Okay,
spot.
so it's not really 2 on the side, it's just a compact behind it and a longer than normal full-size one on the side.
Correct.
Okay. Other questions?
Madam Chair? I
Yes.
just have questions, Anne Marie, being the somewhat newbie about vacation rentals. So they were able to apply for unlimited because the limit went down by 1 somewhere else in the city or nearby in this area,
Somewhere else in the R15 zone.
which is anywhere else in the city.
Mhm.
Okay.
Besides Rhodes End, which is
Besides Rhodes End,
R15,
right, which has a
RE.
different limit, right. Is there any knowledge about any other vacation rentals nearby this property in that same area? Do you have any information on that?
We do not disclose the locations of vacation rental dwellings in the city.
Okay. Reason for my question is if there's 1 there and they have to have, 1 off-street parking per bedroom, is that correct?
They need to have, yes, 1 off-street parking per bedroom, but a minimum of 2. So for instance, if the dwelling only had 1 bedroom, they would still be required to have 2 off-street parking spaces.
Or in addition to what they show here on the site plan, they have to have 2 other parking places off-street?
No,
No?
they only need 2 off-street parking spaces,
2 off-street?
and they're showing the
Okay,
2
is
off-street
there a-
parking
Is
spaces.
there a number of on-street parking places required, or?
No,
None, okay. So that's the only parking that's required.
yes.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Other questions from commissioners? Nope.
Can I clarify something about the script? Okay, when you read the summary of the script, that's how it usually is if this is the first hearing or the first decision. So when you have a conditional use approval and it comes here for a decision, the applicant has the burden and the applicant gets 15 minutes and then anybody else gets 3 minutes. Okay, this is an appeal of a director's decision. So the way we typically handle appeals is, again, the applicant always has the burden, but the appellant kind of frames the appeal. And you heard Anne Marie talk about, they said not adequate safety, traffic, or whatever, talking
Right.
about that, not adequate parking. So and this is based on the script for the Hollinger appeal, which was last summer before the council. It had to do with the bluff, remember?
Right.
The council gives the appellant 15 minutes, and that means all appellants together, not 15 minutes for each appellant, because we have a number of appellants. And then the applicant gets 15 minutes. So that might extend the length of the hearing, but neither side, the appellant nor the applicant, is going to get a benefit. And the appellant typically goes first because the appellant, again, is appealing a decision that was previously approve. Now, there's no deference to the prior decision maker. You're entitled to look at everything, but still, everybody gets, the two parties get 15 minutes. And I would start with the appellant.
Okay, so I have the wrong script. I apologize.
I didn't catch it until you read it,
That's okay. That's okay.
and James gave it to me to look at, and I somehow didn't see it. So sorry.
Okay, so it's Richard's fault
Yes,
that
I'll
I have
take
the
all
wrong
responsibility.
script.
Works for me.
So the appellant will have 15 minutes, and then the applicant will have an opportunity to respond.
15
Right?
minutes.
15 minutes, so we're clear. Okay, so if there are no other questions, then we will hear the appellant presentation. So, who's speaking for the appellant? Don't all jump at once.
If you want to speak for 3 minutes, you can.
The person who's appealing the decision. So that would be Jerry Lawson and Octavian and Lindley Tomos and Jerry and Marilyn Newton and Marianne Hattelid and Robert. Okay.
Sometimes the appellant is the applicant, sometimes the
Yeah.
appellant is neighbors.
Whoever's appealing this.
And that's because the appellants really frame the issues for the appeal.
Sure, thank you. If you'd like to share your time, that'd be fine.
Yeah, we don't give 15 minutes for each person, just
Yeah, we want to get home too.
15 minutes.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I guess I must live farther away than 250 feet because I did not receive any information about
Do you-
this particular process.
You want to state your name, please?
I'm sorry, my name is Jerry Newton.
Okay, thank you.
I was in consult with Mr. Lawson, who filed the appeal, and about the traffic, and I'll let Octavio talk about that. My concern was that about 3 years ago, the Planning Commission designated that entire section of Northeast Lake Drive as a VRD designated area. At that time, we did a petition where about 75% of the people who live there, have permanent homes there, wrote to protest that, to say, no, we don't want that designation in our neighborhood because we're all homeowners. So we sort of thought that got tabled or nullified after that. We have never heard anything. So that would be my first comment, is that this seems to be in an area that we had thought was going to be omitted from this process.
I see.
My second point, and I think Mr. Lawson pointed out quite clearly, that because of the location of this site, which is at the corner of a street that is a dead end, that traffic in and out of there could be a problem. It's by post offices, the postal boxes, where a lot of the neighbors and people who live in that area, the residents, usually walk to their post box to get mail, and I think there was a concern about safety for cars going in and out of there. There's really no way to back out of that space unless you go into the neighbor's driveway, or you're backing around a blind berry bush. So I think there was some concern about safety. So my two points were, we thought that area was not part of an area that had been designated for vacation rentals. And secondly, I think the concern for the access to the area was a problem.
Okay.
Okay.
So Octavian Thomas, I was not there at that time when they initially came in with the ruling, but we've been there about 1.5 years, and it is a very narrow road. It's a dead-end street. The house in question for the rental is right next to the mailboxes, and it's a community mailbox. You literally barely have room for 2 cars to get through on that street. And I have some pictures if you guys care to see them, but the fact is, those 2 parking spots at a rental house, it's never just 2 cars. There are other rental homes in the area, and they are packed with people, and we hear the parties, and to have another full-time rental is, again, on a dead-end street in conjunction with the other ones. It's just not a feasible location. That would be my biggest challenge there, is a
the space, the safety of the people walking to the mailboxes, because we do walk up to that mailbox. My wife has some disabilities and she walks that street. And again, with all that traffic coming in, it's just, I don't see that as a feasible option. So that's why we're appealing the full-time. It's okay, I think, for the 30-day that was already in place. I think that's already been approved. But to have somebody there year-round is a whole different condition.
I would not have any trouble with Mr. Clavia wanting to lease out the property for a full-time rental rather than a vacation rental, given the fact that we have a shortage of housing in this area anyway, given the fact that a full-time rental person is only going to be usually a family or with 1 or 2 cars, we wouldn't have the constant weekend traffic that you would have with a vacation rental. My other observation, this is only from a personal standpoint, is that the homeowners, the people who own the property, haven't been there for a number of months. And after we had the big storm in November, the place was literally blown to pieces and is still in a state of disarray. I just have concern about who's going to manage that property if these people are living out of town, and who's going to manage the renters and that whole period. So that's
I'm
all.
going to agree with that.
Okay.
Yes, we saw the aftermath of the storm. There was garbage all over the place. The cans, there was a little shed back there that was knocked over. And, you know, all the neighbors were going by saying, take pictures, which we did. And, again, I'm going to support that statement.
Okay?
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Okay,
you.
thank you. Before you go, does anyone have questions for the appellants?
I guess I do have a question. So you did mention some issues with parking, there being more cars at current VRDs than allowed, and you're concerned about that with it only being 2 spaces. Have you gone through the means of taking the pictures and calling the people that, because every house has to have a local representative that is a VRD, so you as neighbors should be able to have contact information for those people that are going to be managing it. And that would be a local representative that you can reach out to as neighbors if there are issues with the rules not being followed.
I don't think there's any listing on the house as to who that property management group might be.
Emery, isn't that correct that every local VRD has a local representative and it's either the company that manages it or the owner or a local person that can
Every
be
VRD
contacted?
does have a local representative that resides in Lincoln City.
I thought so.
And so following up on that, so they could come into the planning department desk and bring the address and get the name of that local representative who's responsible for a VRD in the neighborhood.
Yes.
And didn't I see in the notes somewhere that there was a management company managing that property?
It looks like Meredith Lodging. is
That's what I
listed
thought,
as
so I didn't know
who
if I
they're
could
gonna
say
be.
the name or not, but
I'm
yeah.
sorry, who?
Meredith
Meredith
Lodging.
Lodging.
Meredith Lodging.
Oh, yeah, Meredith Lodging, yeah.
So was the question about the other properties in the area? If
Well,
we
it
had
was just
pictures
if-
around that?
If you'd gone through those channels, or if you knew that that was available, that there should be a local representative you can contact if there are
I did
issues
not,
with
but
things.
the houses that we're talking about are not on this dead-end street. They're on the park side,
Okay,
which don't impact this neighborhood directly.
I see. They're just kind of
So
nearby.
it's, to me, this is a whole different situation.
Sure, I understand.
And
other
ju-
Other
just to be
questions?
clear, each VRD has its own local representative,
Right.
so they're not all Meredith.
Right.
No.
Right.
But
The
this,
one around
just
the
this
corner.
particular
one
lot of
in
them are
particular
Meredith.
is listed.
And then directly across from us on the other side of Regatta Park is a privately run VRD house. But you're right. But there's no indication right now as to who's managing
There's
it.
no sign or anything on it.
And that was a concern I
indicates
had.
it.
Is, you know, it apparently isn't being managed right now for whatever reason.
Sure.
Under, under the VRD license ordinance, all owners must post a placard or sign on the front-facing side of the building advising neighbors and tenants of the name and telephone number of the VRD local representative. It's usually next to the alarm company sign,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
it's
So
required.
would that be true for an accessory? Do they have to do that on accessories?
It's in the VRD license ordinance and both full-time and
And 30
accessory
days. Accessory
need
both
to
have
get a
to have it.
license,
Okay.
yeah.
So, okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Members of the commission, I don't usually jump in with facts, but there was a reference to, a couple years ago, we thought that there was going to be,
Yeah.
if you remember, a couple years ago, we had a vacation rental zone, and a couple years ago, the planning director at the time was going to do a city-initiated rezoning of properties to the vacation rental zone, which would allow vacation rentals to operate full-time in those zones. A number of communities said, we don't want that. And so I think that's probably what was being referenced. Of course, that doesn't mean that individual applicants can't come in and ask for
Right.
applications.
And so the end result of all of that happened several years ago was that numbers were associated with each zoning area, right? So the vacation rentals.
After the VR zone
Right,
experiment, and only really one privately initiated VR was processed. After that experiment, the VR was basically set aside, not to be used again, and they came up with this cap in the R1 zone. So that replaced the VR process.
okay. Okay,
I have a question.
yes.
Is page 36 the map of the area showing the property that we're talking about? Anne Marie, or?
36.
Because I'm having trouble locating or giving a visual as exactly where the property is.
Do you know where
There
Regatta
is a
Park
lot
is?
map.
Sorry?
Do you know where Regatta Park is?
I know that, yeah. But, visioning where
there's
this corner unit is.
Yeah, there's a map on page 36.
That's what I'm looking at.
actually the plot map, but it isn't clear which lot
Which property is
is this property.
subject.
It's the second lot in from the
That one?
corner of Regatta Way and Lake Drive.
It's that kind of.
Is there a
roundish-
number on there or something, or?
So is, I can't see it. Is that 33? Wait,
Is that on the right? I can't even make this bigger.
get it a little closer. It looks,
Well, the first one
Well,
is
there's a-
2200. The plat map is
okay, on the map,
Assessor's map.
there's Regatta Street, and then I think that little dead end is what goes off to the right. And there's only two lots on that, and then that corner sort of trapezoid-shaped lot. And there's a little diagram of the house, of the footprint of the house, I think, drawn on that lot. Is that the lot we're talking about?
I believe so. I don't know for sure because I don't know what map
Do
you're
you want to come look
looking
at
at.
it?
It's just page 30 in the agenda, or not in the agenda, but in the packet, page 36.
Is it that lot?
I think
Well, yeah,
that this is the lot.
we have an assessor's map.
That's
now.
the lot, okay.
This is my lot, which is 3,400, I
okay.
think it says.
So that's the lot,
Which,
the one that has the little.
this little house drawn on it, right here?
yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot next to it. It's in the middle of two other lots, right?
It's lot
Yeah, there's
33.
like a flag lot next to it, it looks like.
It's 3,300.
This isn't, right here?
My lot was not a flag lot, it's
Okay.
an odd-shaped lot.
Okay. Okay,
Right here.
okay. So did you have a question about it now that you
Well,
see
no,
where
now
it
because
is?
we were talking about it being on a corner, it doesn't look like it's necessarily on a corner.
No, it looks
to
like
me.
there's one lot that's on the corner to the, if north is up on this map, it would be to the west of it.
Well, if you make this a little bit bigger, when you see tax lot 3,300, you have the
Right,
correct one.
right, we got it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, other questions? All right, is the applicant here? Is the owner of the property here? Okay. Okay. Is there anyone who is here to testify in support of the appeal? No? All right. Anybody neutral regarding the appeal? All right. Anybody in opposition to the appeal? No.
Other than the appellants, yeah.
Other,
That means anyone here speaking in favor of the applicant.
right, right. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Anybody from public agencies? Okay, and we don't have any rebuttal then, because there was nothing. All right. ORS, section 19, is this still applicable? Okay.
No, but read it anyway.
ORS, section 197.763, paragraph 6A, states that upon request, the commission must either grant a continuance for no less than 7 days or hold the record open for no less than 7 days to permit any participant an opportunity to provide additional testimony, argument, or evidence. Does anyone who participated tonight desire to request a continuance to provide additional information? No. Okay. Yes, I do. So I need a motion to close the hearing and the record.
I move to close the public hearing and the record.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay.
The applicant would have the right to submit final written argument after the close of the record. As the applicant isn't here and we haven't heard had a request to submit final written argument, I guess it's deemed waived.
Okay. All right. Okay, it's time to deliberate. Thoughts?
Members, commissioners, I guess I just point out that the mayor reads a script. Sorry, the mayor.
I don't want to be the mayor.
I'm usually, sorry, I'm in council mode. The commission chair reads a script. That's required by state law. The script starts with testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward the applicable substantive criteria just described. Anne Marie described them, or other criteria which you believe apply to the subject of this hearing. And we like to remind people during the hearing that they need to tell us what criterion they're addressing. I think Anne Marie has pretty much told you the criterion are described in the code, and what the appellants are talking about are not criterion. So,
Okay. Commissioners, thoughts? Anybody? Miles, use your mic.
There are a number of rental places because it's next to the park. It's a very popular site, and it is lake frontage, which I think is desirable for people who are traveling, who want to stay in a vacation rental dwelling, and therefore I shall support the status quo that we allow the planning commission director's thoughts on that.
Decision. Okay. Marcy, do you have something?
All the evidence shows that the criteria is met and that the decision that was made is accurate, and you know, that's what we're held to make the decision on. You know, hypotheticals of whether the rules will be followed with parking or whatnot can only be dealt with if it's an issue in the future. It's not a criteria we can look at, so I think that city staff, all stuff's met, so. There's 2 parking spots and dangerous traffic, you know, that could be a concern, but it's not a criteria in the code, so.
Yeah.
I agree with Marcy.
Okay. I hear your arguments. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I also live in an area that has lots and lots of VRDs, and The parking does become an issue, but the remedy, because they've met the requirement that's in the ordinance, the remedy is to call the police and have them respond and deal with it. That goes for a lot of things, including noise, trash, etc. If you witness things that are going on at that house that shouldn't be going on at the house, there is a process to call not only the local representative that's responsible for maintaining the place, but also the police. The police keep a log and a record, and when the licenses come up for renewal, that log is looked at by the planners in terms of reissuing a license. So while I can empathize with the circumstances, the criteria has been met by this building, and they will, once they get their license, they will, as Mr. Apicello mentioned, will be required to post a sign with a phone number for the local contact for you. And like I said, the non-emergency number is a good one to have by your phone also. So I need a motion from the commission.
I'll motion to deny the appeal and approve the application for unlimited use.
Second.
Okay, Marcy seconded. All in favor?
You probably should have roll call.
We should probably have a roll call just to be official, James.
Sorry, I'm catching up.
Okay.
Okay, I'm there. Lanny Nelson,
Yes.
Patty Crowan,
Yes.
Miles Schlesinger,
Yes.
Joshua Brainerd,
Yes.
Marcy Baker,
Yes.
Kim Blackerby.
Yes.
Okay, so, yes, sir.
Just for the appellant's information, the license ordinance is contained in Chapter 514 of the municipal code, and in there's provisions for revocation of a license if in the event of violations of the code. So as was stated, if they're violating one of the provisions of the license ordinance, you contact the police, it gets documented, and enough violations results in revocation of their license. So there is a way to address this. Take a look at Chapter 514.
Okay. You're welcome. Will we have a final order on this, or through the appeal process, is there a final
Well,
order?
yeah, we will bring back a final order at the next meeting.
Okay, all right. So staff will prepare a final order for adoption at our next available meeting. Okay. Okay, this is a big one. All right, it is now 6:49 PM. The public hearing for file conditional use permit 2020-01 and SPR 2020-01 is now open. This public hearing concerns a request for a conditional use permit and site plan design review to develop a new single-story office, vehicle storage/warehouse, and various other structures approximately 11,678 square feet in the general commercial or GC zone. The site is addressed at 2815 Northeast 36th Street. It is Assessor's Map 07-11-02 CA-00103. The applicant is Mary Fierros Bauer on behalf of Northwest Natural. The property owner is listed as Wayne Pipes. The commission must take a few moments to cover some preliminary matters and required statements. This might sound like deja vu to you. Does any member of the commission wish to declare an ex parte contact, conflict of interest, or bias in this matter? No. Okay. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the qualifications of a commissioner to participate in this matter? Seeing none. Okay, the following statements are required to be made at the commencement of the hearing pursuant to the City Code and ORS 197.7635. Staff will now read a list of the applicable substantive criteria for this decision. Anne Marie.
Thank you, Chair. Lincoln City Municipal Code, Chapter 17.32, General Commercial Zone, Chapter 17.52, Supplementary Regulations and Exceptions, Chapter 17.60, Conditional Uses, and Chapter 17.74, Commercial Design Standards.
Okay. All testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward the applicable substantive criteria previously listed, or such other criteria in the plan or land use regulations which the person believes applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to LUBA, the Land Use Board of Appeals, on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the decision maker to respond to the issue precludes any action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the end of this hearing, any person who participated may request a continuance to provide additional testimony, argument, or evidence, or request that the record be left open to submit additional written testimony, argument, or evidence. Before the staff presents a report, I'd like to summarize the public hearing procedures which have been adopted by the Planning Commission and City Council. A summary of the public hearing procedures is on the table by the entrance of the chambers. Generally, the order of proceedings will be as follows: preliminary matters and required statements, followed by the staff report and any questions commissioners have of the staff, the applicant's presentation, those in favor of the application, those neutral, those opposed, and then testimony from public agencies, followed by the rebuttal by the applicant, requests of continuance or to leave the record open, then the close of the hearing and the close of the record, requests to submit written argument, then deliberations and decisions. The city has established some time limits. The applicant will have 15 minutes and may reserve up to 5 minutes of that time for rebuttal. After the applicant testifies, any person may speak for up to 3 minutes. If the Planning Commission has questions, your time responding to any questions will not be counted in your time limit. If you wish to speak, please print your name and mailing address clearly on the sign-up sheet at the table at the entrance. And when you're called to come up, please speak directly into the microphone and begin by stating just your name. If you also have written testimony to submit into the record, you can provide a copy of that to James. Okay, staff report.
Thank you. My name is Anne Marie Skinner with the Planning and Community Development Department. This is the staff report for case file CUP 2020-01 and SPR 2020-01. As has been stated, the applicant is Mary Fierros Bauer, and the property owner is listed as Wayne Pipes or Kim William Biddle. The site is addressed as 2815 Northeast 36th Drive, and I will direct you to the screen. This is the site. If you follow the arrow, it is this large rectangular shaped piece of property. It is in the general commercial zone, and I will switch to the surrounding zoning map. Well, that didn't work.
That didn't help.
All right. Well, it did not get saved, apparently. So, to the north, this area is zoned general commercial, and this area is also zoned, well, this area is zoned recreation commercial. This is the RV park,
Right.
the Devil's Lake RV Park
That's the one we were
that we
talking
had
about last week. Okay.
at the last hearing. And so, as you can see, this is undeveloped. This area here to the west is zone general commercial. It is undeveloped. These areas to the east and the south are developed as residences, and they are in the residential zone, the R175 to be exact. The subject site is an undeveloped lot containing vegetation and trees. The site does not possess any aesthetic, historical, cultural, or archaeological resources. It does not contain any special flood hazard areas, protected trees, geologic hazard areas, significant wetlands, or significant riparian areas. The applicant, as stated in the application, will be constructing a new one-story building, approximately 4,270 square feet, be an office building. Included in the development will be a vehicle storage and warehouse building, a drive-through shop with bays and truck washing equipment. Both of the office and vehicle storage and warehouse buildings will be constructed with pre-engineered metal building structures. The site work scope includes various other site structures, including a covered truck washing pad, a covered trash enclosure, emergency generator, telemetry lattice type tower, and staff and fleet parking spaces.
Anne Marie, can I interrupt you for a minute?
Yes.
You said the site's undeveloped, but what is that on the east side of the site? All of that? Right where your cursor is?
I will let the applicant address that.
Okay.
These homes.
The specific findings made by the Planning Commission in granting a conditional use permit must be factual and supported by substantial evidence. The analysis listed in the staff report includes the 5 criteria for the conditional use permit, and incorporated into criterion 2 is the analysis for the criteria for design review, site design review. In staff's estimation, if the site plan design review standards are met, which includes yards, spaces, walls, fences, parking, loading, and landscaping requirements, then criterion 2 is met, as criterion 2 is the site for the proposed use is adequate in size and shape to accommodate the use and all yards, spaces, wall, and fences, parking, loading, landscaping, and other features required by this title. And essentially all of those items are covered in the requirements for site design review. So with that explanation, I will move into the 5 criteria for the conditional use permit. The first is the proposal is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. And in response to this criterion, the applicant has noted in the application that the site is in the general commercial zoning district. And the code in 17.32.040 lists examples of those uses which meet the intent of that zone on a conditional basis, and they include public utility, utility substation, motor vehicle repair facility, tire shops, and aggregate sales and storage. The city's comprehensive plan provides a general commercial district to accommodate a wide range of retail commercial uses. The comprehensive plan further states that the district runs along Highway 101. Staff notes that even though the site is in the General Commercial Comprehensive Plan District and Zone, it is not located along Highway 101. Chapter 1732 is the chapter in the zoning ordinance for the General Commercial Zone, and that has a stated purpose to permit as conditional uses low-intensity fabrication uses and other limited service facilities as listed. Once an approval is granted with conditions, the comprehensive plan's implementation mechanism or Lincoln City Municipal Code is fully met. Staff notes that the comprehensive plan does not contain any directly applicable policies for utility substations or utility resource centers. However, the comprehensive plan does contain a section for public services and utilities. This section states that other municipal services such as fire service, health service, telephone and gas service are located in Lincoln City and provide utilities on a regional basis to the North Lincoln County areas. These utilities or services have also completed comprehensive planning to ensure that there are no constraints to future extension of the services. The overall public facility policies listed in the comprehensive plan. It shall be the overall policy of Lincoln City to centralize public facilities where appropriate. The city shall utilize the extension of public utilities as a method of controlling growth. Lincoln City shall work with utility companies to develop and directly implement programs for placing all utilities underground. The city shall require new developments to pay for service extensions. Individual public facility policies pertain to sewer, water, and drainage, so this criterion is either not applicable or is met. Criterion number 2 for a conditional use permit is the site for the proposed use is adequate in size and shape to accommodate the use and all yards, spaces, wall and fences, parking, loading, landscaping, and other features required by this title. That would include all of the requirements, development requirements in Chapter 1732, which is the general commercial zone. It would also include all the requirements for site plan review and design standards. And the staff report lists, I am not going to go through all of those, the staff report lists each of those criteria through the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages.
Do the design standards apply here?
The design standards include landscaping and parking, so yes, they apply. And the landscaping requirements have been met. The parking requirements have been met. The design standards for the building, most of them do not apply because those standards are applicable for either a purl or the string. And this is not in the purl or the string. So most of the building design standards don't apply to this project.
Okay.
And specifically the secondary entrances, armature of block, building mass, window transparency, building orientation, primary entrance, pedestrian space, none of those standards apply because the site is not in a purl and it's not in the string. The exterior lighting requirements apply, and they submitted a lighting plan and photometric analysis that meets all of the light pole height requirements and the maximum 4-foot candle luminance in the parking area. The landscape requirements apply, and they submitted a landscape plan that meets all of the landscaping requirements. Screening of mechanical equipment and the trash enclosure area applies, and their plans show that those are all being screened. The telemetry tower, there are no requirements or standards for that telemetry tower. They have opted to make it blend in with the site, even though that's not a requirement. Parking, flip over here. Criteria number 3 is the site for the proposed use relates to streets and highways adequate in width and degree of improvement to handle the quantity and kind of vehicular traffic that would be generated by the proposed use. The applicant did submit a traffic profile. Staff noted that pedestrians will be required to walk on the 24-foot wide roadway of Northeast 36th, which doesn't contain shoulders or pathways. The development's uses are proposed to include vehicle storage, crew dispatch, equipment storage, and local office function. Although the submitted traffic profile estimates only 32 trips per day, the proposed use will change the kind of vehicular traffic. The trips are more likely to be large dispatch vehicles, construction equipment transport, or equipment and material delivery. This kind of traffic frequently includes large trailers and or flatbed trailers. Given the current status of Northeast 36th Drive in its unimproved state, with its lack of curb and gutter, sidewalk, and full street section, and given the kind of vehicular traffic the proposed use will involve, staff feels that for this criterion to be met, frontage improvements are necessary, extending east from the southeastern property corner, the remaining 400 feet of Northeast 36th Drive to Northeast West Devils Lake Road, thereby connecting the sidewalk improvements to the multi-use pathway on Northeast West Devils Lake Road, with compliance to the code 17.52.230, as well as these additional improvements to the remaining 400-foot length. Staff feels this criterion will be met.
Madam?
So let me just back up 1 second. So curb and gutter and sidewalk will be required
That's
the
what I
entire southern boundary of the property and extending all the way to Devil's Lake Road.
Correct.
Do you have a different question?
Well, I think I actually had the same question. But the one thing I'm a little confused about is where is the entrance from this property onto Northeast 36th? I keep getting confused about that when I look at that drawing.
Well,
It's
it
down there.
appears
It's the
to be
southeast corner.
Southeast corner.
So again, can you show me where all those improvements, which part of Northeast 36 is going to be improved?
Well, it'll be the entire site frontage, so it'll be the entire,
Okay.
and then it'll be this remaining 400 feet
Okay.
to Devil's Lake.
Yes.
And so Northwest Natural will pay for those improvements on the sidewalks and the roads there?
Yes,
It's part of their, okay.
yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Criterion number 4 is that the proposed use will have minimal adverse impact upon adjoining properties and the improvements thereon. The submitted site plan shows a 7-foot tall chain link fence with privacy slats around the perimeter. Additionally, the site will be developed with the existing grade. The site will be kind of down in a hole, not
The
not a
site will be
huge hole,
down
but
in a hole.
it'll be
There's a significant cut
yeah,
involved.
yes. So that, along with the perimeter fencing and the landscaping that's being installed, as well as the item that I mentioned earlier about the telemetry tower, they've stated it will be a non-reflective forest green to blend in with the surrounding area, trees and landscape. All the proposed exterior lights will be shielded. The application does not include any requests for signage, and the applicant included a site acoustical analysis showing that impact to surrounding properties from noise will be minimal. Property owners within 200 feet of the site did receive notice of the request. No written comments were received.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
The fencing, Somewhere in here, there's a talk about fencing types, and I'm not thinking that chain link with slats is in that category. Is that an approved? I thought it required wood, natural evergreens.
No, Title 17 has no requirements for types of fencing.
Okay, when I find it again, I'll comment on it. All right.
Criterion number 5 is not applicable, as the site does not contain any historic, scenic, or cultural attributes. The staff report provided a list of recommended conditions of approval, and I noticed as I was looking at those that I neglected to include the remaining recommended conditions of approval from Public Works. So while the applicant is presenting their presentation, I will make copies of these additional requirements from Public Works to give to the commission.
So this is a site plan review. Was there a previous one with Public Works and other city agencies involved?
No.
Okay. Isn't it typical that they attend a site plan review?
Typically, Public Works attends the site plan review meeting. Sometimes the fire marshal does.
I don't see them here.
Yes, he is on vacation.
Oh, who's he? The fire
The
marshal?
fire marshal.
Okay. And Public Works isn't here either.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
They submitted their comments and their conditions.
Okay. Okay. Do you have more?
Nope.
Questions for Anne Marie? Yeah, yeah. So you're going to get those to us at some point here? Okay.
Is there sewer in that part of the street along the property? Or are they putting in the sewer line?
I will let the applicant address that.
Okay, hold that thought.
Right.
That's it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're ready for the applicant's presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Mary Farrows Bauer with LRS Architects. I'm representing Northwest Natural. And I'm gonna, I wrote down the questions that you guys had earlier, and I'm just gonna sort of walk through that. And
Okay.
unless you want me to walk through the drawing set, but I think I'm just gonna focus in on your questions, and you guys can feel free to ask questions.
Okay, and you can add anything else you think we might want to know.
Sounds good. I think Anne Marie did a really great job as far as explaining the application and our proposed project. But I'm going to go ahead and pop into the site plan here. So I know there was a question, Chair Patty, regarding you had a question regarding about the existing structure on the site. So I'm going to bring this drawing here.
Right.
So this here, there's an existing garage, storage garage there right now, and there is a stockpile of gravel as well in the corner here.
Is that garage attached to the structure that's to the east? Or is it a standalone garage?
It is a standalone garage,
Okay,
yes. And we are proposing to remove that
okay.
existing garage. Basically, the existing driveway that is there currently that these folks are utilizing is pretty much going to remain in place. So we're sort of keeping that egress inward and outward in the same location.
Okay.
You'll see this here. It's the same corner. So we have the residential zone here, and then to the north side, we have the trailer park. There was a second question, and that was related to your question, Lenny, and you had the question about the.
Yeah, I found what I was referring to, but I guess it does say metal.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily think of chain link as metal, but I guess it is.
Thank you for confirming that.
Yep.
And we tried to address the fence a little bit as far as versus plain chain link, and also for screening of the adjacent neighbors as well. We provided the privacy slats as an additional measure. And I know when Anne-Marie talked about the development here, we really tried to be very sensitive to the neighbors across the street, the residential zone across the street. So we tried to recess the development, and so we are doing some excavation. The site is sloped this way, and so we are carving into the hillside in order to make the circulation for the larger vehicles easier on the site, as well as screening measures for the adjacent properties. We are maintaining a tree line as well around the perimeter of the property. We are maintaining a 7-foot tall fence around the property as well, and that's provided for security. At Northwest Naturals, resource centers are secured, and so we do provide a 7-foot fence for them with privacy slats. There's a motorized gate here at the entry driveway that is also card reader accessed, so it is a secure site. And it's not open to the public. There'll be no visitors at the site. There'll be proposed 11 occupants for this site here.
When you're excavating out and carving into that hillside, you have some sort of retaining wall structure. And did you, I noticed that a number of the trees that you intend to leave are in that vicinity. Have you communicated with your arborist about the potential impact of those trees from that retaining wall?
We have. As a matter of fact, some of those trees are being proposed to be removed because of the, we are impacting the tree root zone. And so we have been in communication with our arborist. We have an arborist on the project that we're working closely with. We also have our civil engineer here with us as part of our project team as well to answer any questions that you might have regarding the grading of the site and what we're doing excavation-wise.
Okay.
But we are proposing a retaining wall along the southern portion of the site here.
And the western portion?
And a little, yes, and along the western portion here.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So now we're going to answer the questions here in case we answer the type of fencing. And I will let our civil engineer as well, Scott Morris, talk about the sewer line. I know that you had a question regarding the sewer line.
Okay.
Is there any other questions? I don't know if you have questions regarding the buildings and
So,
Yeah, Kim.
Northwest Natural has an existing facility that they're doing this work out of here today?
they do, yes.
Is that on 101 somewhere?
It is on 101. As a matter of fact, we have Tim here with us as well. He's the operator at the existing facility right now off of 101.
What will happen to that space once you move into here?
They will vacate that space, and actually this space will work functionality-wise much better than what their space is right now, and I can let Tim speak to that.
Sure. And is that space leased? I'm kind of looking forward to what will happen with that, or kind of what Northwest Natural will do to
Affordable housing?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Wayne Pipes. I'm Director of Facility Security and Emergency Management for Northwest Natural. The existing location we would end up selling after we would move into the new location. So, and that money would go back to our ratepayers. It's actually owned, properties are owned by the ratepayers.
Okay. Yeah.
I have questions.
Lenny?
Okay. You have a fueling tank set up for in here and a washing facility? So question number one, fuel tank. Do you have a system set up so that if there's an accidental spill, you can contain it on site? Because if you do not, it'll go right into Devil's Lake, given the drainage in that area.
Absolutely. So I know there's a lot of regulations regarding fuel tanks, and we are working on a facility for Northwest Natural right now in Vancouver, and working one in downtown Portland as well. So they have very stringent requirements for that. So we will make sure it will be contained, and there's an oil water separator involved with the fuel tank as well. So we will be following requirements for the fuel tank.
And the fuel tanks are dual tanks, so there's a tank inside a tank, so in case there's a leak.
Yeah.
Although I was more concerned about it at the time, I assume you intend to fill trucks there, should there be a leakage there. You have some way of containing it on site?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then my question about the washing facility, what are you going to do with the water that comes off of that?
So there is a very intensive, we have a water circulating in a Landa unit, and so there is a catch basin, and it's also tied to the oil water separator. But there's a recycling system for the water as trucks get washed at the truck pad.
And where does the water go?
Once it goes through the oil water separator, it will get distributed out to, and we have our civil engineer here also to speak to that, but it's the sanitary sewer.
Okay, so you'll separate out the oil and then put it in
absolutely.
sanitary sewer is what
It
you're
will not go to
telling me.
storm. Yeah.
Somewhere in here, and I can't find the exact reference, but you keep using a 3-letter term for a material, and I wondered what that meant, CMU or CWU?
Oh, that is concrete masonry unit.
And what is that?
It is, have you seen like an 8 by 12, you've probably seen concrete masonry block units. They're
The cinder block.
a cinder block, there you go.
Thank you, I know what a cinder block is.
So you're bringing down the
It's a fancy word for a cinder block.
Cinder block. Actually, you don't see it used a lot around here. We don't use a lot of cinder block around here. Oh, that's what you mean by that,
Yes.
okay.
Other questions? Should we get the engineer up here?
Well, I would make a general comment. This is a very well presented application. There's a great deal of information in here, and it's the correct information, and I'm impressed.
Thank you.
I would support that. I think the facility, the way you've blended into the natural area, and even the color of the tower blending into the trees, much more appealing than the current facility you operate on, for sure.
The other comment I would make is that it's going to be a seismically upgraded building, so we're trying to make sure that we're prepared for a Cascadia event. So being a critical facility and a utility, we want to make sure that we're able to respond if we have a seismic event.
Good idea. Good idea. Go ahead.
I don't know if you guys might be the right people to ask instead of the engineer, but I noticed you had a neighborhood meeting, and it said in our packet that it went well. Could you guys just speak to that for a second, how it was received in the neighborhood?
It was received very well. I mean, they had questions regarding noise, they had questions regarding trees and the screening of the property, but it was received very well. We had boards that we printed out, full-size boards with the extra elevations, the site plan. We also had our acoustical engineer on hand as well to speak to they had questions regarding the noise and the number of vehicles anticipated.
And Anne Marie, has there been any comment letters received?
No.
Okay. Miles?
I was curious as to when the facility that you now operate was built.
Boy, I think the building's over 50 years old. I don't know, Tim, do you know the answer to that?
Does that have the modern conveniences that you are building in this facility, such
does
as
not.
truck washing and?
It does not. And we've outgrown the site, and it's a difficult area for us to get out in the summertime. Traffic's really heavy on 101. And
Yeah, I would
for
think that
responding
this,
quickly to emergencies, it's
Yeah.
created a challenge.
this location seems like it's a little better suited for
Madam Chair?
your responses. Yes, Lenny?
Is it to be assumed, and will you stipulate that on that driveway, that traffic will exit out to West Devils Lake Road rather than go over 36? Because not only is the problem with no signage on 36 continue all the way to the highway on the opposite side, but there's a hill that's a sightline issue. So are you going to make sure all your traffic comes and goes on West Devils Lake Road?
I think from an operational perspective, that would be generally what we would do unless there was a road circumstance that created some type of obstacle where that was the only direction we could get out of the location. So, Tim, do you want to add any comments to that?
say the majority of the time that we will be heading down towards West Devils Lake Road to access a light to get out on the highway.
Yeah, that gives you a light.
I would say, occasionally they might turn in that direction with a small vehicle like a van come up 36 to access the site instead of going all the way around at West Devils Lake Road if they're in the middle of town. But I wouldn't say the bigger trucks, no, they're going to be coming down at West Devils Lake Road.
Well, not only that, but there's a number of cross streets that will take you, like 22nd takes you from the highway to West Devils, so you can come around. And then, just a second, I'm having a senior moment. Oh, you said that you were closing the site that you have on. Where are your customers going to come visit you? The few customers that must walk up.
So customers don't. Years ago, when that facility was built, we actually used to sell appliances there. And we had customers come in to pay their bills there and do customer service, but we don't perform those functions any longer out of our resource centers.
Oh.
So there really is no access for customers to come to our locations any longer.
They haven't had that at least for 10 years.
I'm all electric. What do you want from
Now,
me?
now. We don't need to go there.
I went to pay my bill there when I moved
Miles has got
down
the
here
e-pay
full
set up.
time.
What can I say?
Okay. I have a couple of design questions, so I think they're probably more appropriate to you, but the engineer can chime in if he wants to. You don't have, in your parking area, did you ever contemplate putting an electric car charging parking space? It's not required.
On a gas company?
Yes, on a utility company.
Anytime we propose an electric, mechanical unit, it's like, what are you guys doing? We're a gas company. No, but we have not on this one. I know on Vancouver, it is a requirement there, so we are making allocation for future, where we're doing future
Yeah.
rough-in for electric, stations, electrical vehicle stations there.
Okay. And then the other question that I have, it is a narrow, it's a narrow street, and you have big trucks coming in and out, one entrance and exit. Any thought to perhaps putting some sort of flashing light when you're coming out to alert folks that are on the street, either walking or in cars or on bicycles, that big truck is coming out?
I know that we have a vision triangle, right, Scott, that we are.
Yeah, we haven't talked about a light of any sort. Now, this driveway, even though it's on a hillside, has pretty good sight distance because of the way the road turns right where the driveway is. You can see pretty well because the trees are cleared out. It's existing gravel drive, and it's a somewhat of a flat spot.
Yeah.
One of the only ones on the site, which is
On
why
that
the
site.
driveway's naturally there.
Yeah, I'm looking at a bunch of circles with lines in them that I'm assuming are representing your vegetation that you're putting in or leaving. And I'm just curious, there's a little curve there, and it just seems that it, yeah, you can, please. Mm-hmm.
There's usually like a 15 to 20 foot line in each direction.
Yeah.
And that means it should be over 30 inches tall. Because that's where the driver sits
But they may be little shrubs.
way out here,
Okay,
so there's actually more distance from where those are shown
okay.
than it may appear on the big map. At this scale, everything looks really close together. But if you looked at it in real life, so to speak, that may be 5 or 10 feet further back than at this scale.
Then it's showing, okay.
But either way, regardless of what this shows, within that 15 feet either side of the triangle, it really shouldn't be anything above 30.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just thinking about preventative
Absolutely.
rather than
Can I answer
waiting
this
for
question
something to
before I sit
happen.
down, so you can
Sure.
Or forget it. There's a sanitary manhole, I think the city put it in the pipe. They ran a new sanitary manhole right through the driveway, it's gravity. And then from here up to serve these houses with pressure, we're gonna kind of go gravity line and feed it through the system.
Okay. All right. Other questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
And I'm going to try to catch up here because we just received this from the planning director. The stormwater, there's no stormwater facilities there. Where are you going to,
Actually, there is.
Where?
If you look at the other sheet. We're actually collecting all the stormwater on site, and we're putting it into, keep going, that. Right up in this area. We're gonna build this, which is basically a big concrete box. It's gonna be a detention tank. Essentially, it's open on top and landscaped, so it'll treat the water for pollutants. It'll settle down through there, have detention time, and then we're gonna have a flow control outlet before it goes out and ties into the pipe down to Devil's Lake.
So,
Runoff,
Whoa,
the
ties into
quantity
what
of the
pipe?
runoff will be no more than it is right now. And in fact, we're redirecting it, because right now it runs off down by the RV park,
but what pipe that runs down to Devil's Lake?
right? The one that you tell us we're gonna build.
Oh,
Part of those- If not, it's
Okay.
gonna go in the ditch. There's an existing ditch
no, I know,
there.
I realize that's what's along 36 is all curbed.
And what we show is it overflowing into that ditch and going down the north side.
Okay, and what's the capacity of that tank?
The capacity of the tank,
Yeah.
I do not remember that number off the top of my head, but I do have a full stormwater model that we submitted to the Public Works Department showing that we contain the large storm event. I think it's around 6 inches in 24 hours for
Okay.
the whole site runoff.
All right, thank you.
and the entire parking and the rest of the site all the way up to the retention wall is impervious, correct? So you're going to be collecting water that currently is seeping in to the ground. as
Some of it,
opposed to-
yes. Everywhere we see it, that's why you have to detain it, because we're increasing the
Right,
actual
right.
stormwater by paving it and building a building. There's also gonna have to be drainage behind the retaining wall to pick up
Exactly.
anything coming down the hill.
So are you connecting that into your box culvert?
Everything goes there except for, everything except for this area, which naturally runs down the hill there into a little kind of makeshift ditch on the south side of the RV park, which will remain.
And you're not anticipating any increase in that flow?
To the RV park, there'd be less.
Less? Okay. Other questions? Okay. Give me a minute here to take a look at. You're not going to build any osprey nests or anything like that, huh?
I have, while you're looking, let me,
ahead, Lenny.
I maybe misunderstood this, but is there a strawberry tree involved in this? And if so, what's a strawberry tree?
Are you finding that in the landscape plan?
Yes, I am.
Is a good question.
Okay.
Now,
It's just a type of tree.
It is?
Yes.
Evergreen, is it one of the?
It's a
fruit ones?
deciduous.
And it's called a strawberry tree.
Mhm.
Never heard of it. Learn something new.
Okay, other questions? Anybody? Have any other questions about this? No? Do you have any questions for us? No? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Arbutus unido.
We're now at the point where we can take testimony in support of the application. Is anyone here to support the application? Good evening.
My name's John Miller. I live on 36 Drive.
Okay.
And they have invited us to the, a site plan and everything about a month and a half ago. And it's exactly the same they're showing here. And the general consensus, I can't see the word, of the people that showed up at the meeting, that most of them were the homeowners there, was very favorable about it. Because they did take in consideration, there was a lot of homes around there. So they said that they seem to have all their ducks in a row, basically. That they just thought that was, the consensus of the people there thought it was a very good idea for such a big space to have something like that, especially being out of the tsunami zone and upgrading their old building. Me personally, I feel like it's a great thing for the neighborhood, because even though the road isn't wide enough, they promised they're going to widen the road and put in a sidewalk, which is nice. You're concerned about people walking up and down there. There's not that much foot traffic. The only people you see is joggers and stuff that want to attempt climbing that hill. And they want to, you see, they come down the hill a lot faster. But it's really not that busy of a street, but I think it's an excellent idea for the neighborhood, and personally, I'm welcoming them to the neighborhood. That's why I showed up here and sat through an hour and a half of meetings. But I think my personal recommendation is for living in the city for 23 years, is that you should approve it if they have all their ducks in the road on your side of it.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming and speaking. Anyone else? Okay, any testimony that is neutral regarding the application? You just want to talk? No? All right, how about any testimony in opposition to the application? All right, and I don't see any public agencies here. Don't know that there's much for you to rebut for the, all right. So ORS section 197.763 paragraph 6A states that upon request, the commission must either grant a continuance for no less than 7 days or hold a record open for no less than 7 days to permit any participant an opportunity to provide additional testimony, argument, or evidence. Does anyone who participated desire to request a continuance to provide additional testimony, argument, or evidence, or request that the record be left open to submit said additional written testimony, argument, or evidence? I'm not seeing any. Okay, I need a motion to close the hearing and the record.
So
I
moved.
move to close the hearing and record.
Okay,
Second.
Kim beat you to it. All right. Lenny seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. Do you, as the applicant, waive the opportunity to submit final written arguments? Okay. Good enough. All right. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any additional advice or legal thoughts?
Just remember, you have two applications in front of you. One is a conditional use approval, which you're used to seeing, and then the other is basically the site plan, which was referred to you.
Okay, so we need to move and second and vote on both of those. Can we do them together?
Do them together, you just need to remember you have to.
Okay, all right. Okay, deliberations, thoughts? Anyone?
I just want to add to what we said earlier. I think it's really an impressive design, and I think it just adds to the image of the city. Just building it in with the color schemes and everything that you thought of at that time, and, you know, clearly an upgrade from what they're using today.
Yes.
And I think it just makes the city better all around. So I appreciate your thoughtful consideration of just the appearance and the image beyond your personal use for this.
Josh?
Oh, thanks for keeping my fireplace going. So. No, very professional application. Thank you for being here tonight and putting in all the work and time and effort to, bring the community into the planning process and everything. And as I'm sure you're aware, that's a very big impact when you're talking about larger projects like this. So, thank you very much.
The left side?
I think it looks like the criteria are meant to me, and the staff did a really good job on the conditions, and I don't know, I think it looks like a really good use for a large undeveloped commercial area in a neighborhood that's not going to increase a ton of traffic. It seems like a good fit.
Okay.
My,
Lenny?
my comment would be, I'm glad to see that you're retaining as many trees as possible and replacing those at which you are. Because I know of that property, and I know how steep it is, and I wondered what you would plan to do in there. And the topo map shows it's pretty steep, so that's interesting. But thank you.
Miles, thoughts?
I think it's a great proposal, and I'm glad that they're moving ahead.
Okay. I don't have anything to add other than what has been said. Well done. I appreciate your approach to the public and communicating with the neighbors and letting them know exactly what you're doing. The plan is well thought out. I like the design. Keep as many Sitkas as you can. And replant as many as you can, please. Evergreens, a big choice. So I need a motion for both the conditional use application and the site review, and I would like it to include the conditions from Public Works as submitted. So
I'll motion to approve the application with the conditions from Public Works. Both applications, the site plan review and the conditional use permit.
Seconded?
okay, Marcy seconded. All. Let's do a roll call.
Second. Okay. Lenny Nelson,
Yes.
Patty Crowan,
Yes.
Miles Schlesinger,
Yes.
Josh Brainerd,
Yes.
Marcy Baker,
Yes.
Kim Blackerby.
Yes.
All right. Go forth and build. This is a tentative decision of the Planning Commission. The staff will prepare a final order, and they'll get it to us at our next, probably our next meeting. So thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
This is unrelated to it. I'm just wondering what's the expected completion date?
November of 2021.
Okay.
2021? Wow.
Takes a lot of time to dig a hole.
You're going to let the trees grow up first before you put the buildings in, right?
Will you be holding an open house before you lock it up and,
Oh, okay.
Okay, good. With cookies. Sounds good. All right.
Made on a
Thank you.
natural gas stove, of course.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any old business?
No, we don't have any old business.
Okay. Any new business?
No.
All right. And Planning Commission training, I'm assuming, is still on hold till we have another. Do we know the status of another commissioner?
February 10th for City Council. It's on the
Okay.
agenda.
So our second meeting in February, perhaps, we could be at full force.
Correct.
Okay. All right, any reports or comments? Future agenda items. We got a couple of things coming up, I noticed.
Yes, we have an annexation and a rezone on February 18th, and we also have a rezone on February 18th.
2 rezones?
The one rezone is in conjunction with the annexation.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. All right. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Give me my thing back.
Can I get you to dial it again? I got off of technology about 2 minutes.
6 to 7, right? 9, there